Okay, hello, everyone. Today's date is July 10, 2022. We are supposed to be having a simulation with Irish Parliament member Richard Boyd Barrett. I don't see him on the screen yet, but hopefully he'll show up as we progress. We are having a Israeli-Palestinian Confederation simulation. What we are simulating is the creation and the existence and the functioning of a common government for the people of Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem. 14 million people. It's an entity that will be created for those people in Israel and Palestine. It's not an Israeli government. It's not a Palestinian government. It would be a government for the people of Israel and Palestine. It is not designed to protect one side over another. It is designed to give peace and prosperity and security to the people of Israel and Palestine in the area of Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem. We have a constitution. And before that, my name is Joseph Avisar. This is my email, josephavisar@gmail.com. If you wish to send me comments, please send it to josephavisar@gmail.com, and I will respond to whatever comment you send. Our website is ipconfederation.org. I for Israel, P for Palestine, confederation.org. We have a constitution. It is in 3 languages, Arabic, Hebrew, and English. If you go to the constitution link, you will be able to read the vision of the constitution, the vision, V-I-S-I-O-N, not dividing, but what is the vision of the constitution, of the government, how it would be created. It is basically designed to be a secular government for the people of Israel and Palestine with 3 branches of government. One branch would be the legislative, that's the parliament. That's the branch that makes the laws. That would be 300 parliament members, Israelis and Palestinian people together on an equal basis. The second branch is the executive branch. That's the branch that executes the laws that the legislator passed. That would be president and vice president, one Israeli and one Palestinian, and they rotate after 2 years. Whoever gets the most vote will be president. Whoever gets the second number of votes of the other nationality would be vice president, and they rotate. And the third branch is the judicial branch, the judges. Those would be both Palestinians and Israelis. They are restricted to adjudicate laws that passed by the parliament and regarding the constitution. They are based on equality, based on Israelis and Palestinian people together. It's a very interesting read if you read the Constitution. I didn't see, but is Mr. Barrett with us? Can someone tell me? Because I don't really see the audience very well with my PowerPoint. But let me read his bio. Richard Boyd Barrett is an Irish Parliament member and the chair of the Irish anti-war movement. He calls on the Irish government to recognize the Amnesty International report calling out Israel for operating a racist and cruel system of apartheid against the Palestinian people. So that it is clear, we are inviting people with all points of views, on the left, on the right, pro-Palestinians, anti-Palestinians, pro-Israelis, anti-Israelis, and people in general that can comment upon our formula for common government. Our next guest will be Robert Naiman. He is the president of Truth Out and a former policy director of Just Foreign Policy. He will be with us on July 24th, 2022. The next one would be Paul Sham. He is a research professor of Israel Studies at the University of Maryland. He will be with us on August 7th. He wrote an article in Haaretz, an opinion page, in which he, I'm quoting, he said, the only old new comprehensive idea to arise in the last few years is confederation, sort of two-state solution, 2.0. He was really talking about the Yossi Beilin and the Land for All program. He was not really talking about our program, but I contacted him and he was willing to talk to us about our formula for peace, which I think is a much better formula for peace. Then we'll have on August 21st, Professor Frankie Wilmer. She was a Montana state legislator for 8 years, and she's a professor at Montana State University. Then we will have Professor Menachem Klein at Bar-Ilan University in Israel. He is a professor of Middle East and Islamic Studies. I know he supports the two-state solution, but he was willing to come and speak to us about our formula for peace, although I'm not sure he understands it. But I usually meet with these people 2 weeks before in order to give them a background, and I don't want to surprise them during the simulation because it doesn't really permit a good substantive discussion when they are surprised. So try them as much time to think about it. And some of the guests are also participating in our simulation, so it gives them a better background. So I'll be speaking with Menachem Klein as well as the others. And then we'll have a conversation with Gidon Levy, who is a Haaretz journalist. Gidon Levy already participated in our simulation. He was very supportive, I believe, of the Confederation. But that was almost a year ago, and I invited him for a conversation. There is no point in doing another simulation with him. He's already accepted it. So we'll talk to him about what's going on. And now there are elections, I believe, in Israel on November 1st. And we'll talk to him about that and about the relationship between Israelis and Palestinians. The simulation today will take 120 minutes. So, you know, even if we have no guests, we can do the simulation. The guests are invited to speak about what we do, but we can still do what we do, and we can speak about what we do, even if we do not have a guest. So it would be several segments in the simulation. I believe about 4 or 5 segments. This is not a lecture. It's a simulation. So I'm hoping that you understand it in that spirit. We have a short video that explained this common government, how it will function. It's 2-minute video, and I'd like to play it.
The conflict between Israelis and Palestinians has endured for generations, and instead of time healing the wounds, it's only caused the anger to fester and the violence to grow. But what if there was a way to alleviate the tension? Something that may not outright solve every problem, but at least create a forum that encourages a peaceful compromise. Welcome to the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, a common third government between the Israeli and Palestinian citizens, specifically designed to foster peace, tolerance, and economic prosperity between the two nations. Here's how it works. First off, both Israel and Palestine will keep their respective governments. Israel's Knesset and the Palestinian National Authority will remain unchanged. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, IPC, will be a third entity acting as a unifying agent between the two. The IPC will comprise 300 parliament members elected from 300 districts in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Above them will preside a president and vice president, one Israeli and one Palestinian. In order for the IPC to pass a law, it will require a 55% majority from its Israeli representatives, as well as a 55% majority from its Palestinian representatives, thereby preventing either side from monopolizing the legislature. Of course, the IPC won't undermine the political power of either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. At any time, Israel or Palestine may veto a law passed by the IPC. If neither side vetoes, the law is passed, and the two nations are another step closer to resolution. Please help us make this a reality. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. We might speak different languages, but we all mean the same thing.
So we are actually going to be simulating what's on this video. Before we do the simulation and go into the details, I would like to do a pre-simulation survey and ask you ahead of time whether you, at this time, do you support a common government for the people in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza that will coexist with the Israeli and the Palestinian governments? So I'm asking you to vote at this time. You should be seeing the voting. And then we will do the vote at the end of the simulation to see if there are any changes. Okay, if more people can vote, okay, I'm gonna allow another 5 seconds for voting. Okay, so right now we have 89% in favor of a common government, 11% against. I should state, however, that a lot of the people that are on the simulation today have been before, so they already understand how the common government is. So the fact that we have such a high number for people accepting the idea of a simulation of a common government perhaps has to do with the fact that they've been in the simulation before. It doesn't mean that the society at large will accept it. I believe if the society at large understood what it is and there was an awareness of what it is, we would have got much lower number in terms of acceptance, both on Israeli and the Palestinian. These numbers are very high in favor of the common government, which makes me happy, but I don't think it reflects reality. We are here to demonstrate how a common government could make peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis, but not only between the Israelis and the Palestinians, but also with the entire neighborhood. We are not having a historical review of who is to blame, although I think it's important to know who is to blame. And I think it is important that the common government will discuss who is to blame. And that by itself is an important discussion. And perhaps we should have a discussion about that. But right now, we are just simulating how a common government could work without that aspect of the discussion, which is who is to blame, which is a very important part. We are not anti-Israeli or anti-Palestinian. We are trying to be as objective as possible for the purpose of making peace. So we are asking you that you do not digress from the simulation discussion. We are not here to talk about who is to blame, and I'm asking that your questions and comments would be regarding what we are doing in the simulation itself. The speaker, I'm not sure if he's here yet, but the speakers in general are not representative of the IPC. They are invited to conduct a stress test. We're basically asking for their opinion. what's wrong with what we are proposing? Why is it not possible? Why is it possible, etc.? So they are here to do a stress test on the confederation idea what we are proposing. We are following our own narrative. In other words, we are not following the Israeli narrative or the Palestinian narrative. We have our own narrative. Because we are an organization that believes in a common government for the people of Israel and Palestine as a whole. We are not here to represent Israel or the Palestinian. We expect to have a rigorous discussion. And we do not preclude other formula for peace. By the way, when the common government will become a reality, if it becomes a reality, I believe it will, it's not going to follow the Israeli narrative or the Palestinian narrative. It's going to, by its nature, because it is a common government, will have its own narrative, its own outlook on the area, not Israeli, not Palestinian, but the outlook, the interest of the whole area. We will ask the speaker if he's here, and I'm asking you too, when you judge this plan, please use these criteria. Is the plan implementable? I believe it is. Could it make peace? And is there a downside to the Israelis and the Palestinian people? I believe it could make peace, and we're here to demonstrate it could make peace. And it is implementable, relatively very easy to implement, and there is no downside to the Israeli or the Palestinian or their governments. We are proposing legislation, and we're doing it in order to demonstrate how a common government could function. We're not imposing our will. We are not a common government. We are acknowledging the fact that we are not the common government. We are just demonstrating how the common government could find legislation that would be acceptable to both sides. And what we are showing today is the tip of the iceberg. There are many, many legislation. In fact, we have many legislation, but because of time constraint, we can only show a few. We're asking you to look at the picture, avoid technical arguments, and refrain from comments during the simulation. Questions, on the other hand, are encouraged. Please ask questions. I'm gonna encourage you to ask questions. What's the difference between a question and a comment? If I show you an airplane and I say, well, and you say, well, what is this, Joseph? I say, well, this is an airplane. It flies up in the air. That's a question. But if you say, I will never board an airplane. Airplanes are dangerous. They cause pollution. That's a comment. Please keep your comments to the end or use the chat for comment. Okay. Now to the more, to the simulation itself. There are certain things that we have to accept as facts, and they are facts. That the Israeli prime minister is the prime minister of the Israeli people. He was elected by the Israeli people. The Palestinian leaders represent the Palestinians only. We have no issue with that. We accept that as facts. But we are asking you to assume certain assumptions. These are not facts. These are assumptions that the simulation is built upon. And you will be able to criticize those assumptions, but we're asking you to assume certain things. The first assumption is that we just finished an online election, and it was online, meaning on the internet, and it took 3 months, not one day, not a week, but 3 months election, and we just ended it today. This is the first assumption that I want you to make. You can challenge me, say, Joseph, there's no way you can do an election online, but that's what we're asking you, is to assume that we had an online election. And we permitted 14 million people, of course, with the exclusion of minors on both sides, to vote. So the election was for 14 million in Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem, with their ability to vote. 5 million people voted. That's what I want you to assume, that 5 million people voted, 3 million Palestinian voted, and 2 million Israeli voted. Again, you can challenge that assumption, but for the purpose of this simulation today, I want you to assume that 5 million people voted, 3 million Palestinian, 2 million Israeli voted. That we elected a president. The president received 1.5 million votes. That I, Joseph, was elected president. Now, so that it's clear, I'm not planning ever to run as president. I'm not even qualified to be a president of Israel, Palestine, but it makes it easier for me to conduct the simulation when I act as the president. 1.3 million people voted for a Palestinian, so she will be vice president, and we will rotate for after 2 years. I also want you to assume that 300 parliament members were elected in 300 districts in Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem, 300 districts. And each parliament member represents 47,000 people. So these are the assumptions that I want you to assume. Does anyone have any question or is unable to accept those assumptions? Speak up or raise your hand right now. Does anyone have, even if you participated before and you thought about questions, and is anyone not willing to accept those assumptions? Did anyone raise his hand? You can speak up too. I believe those assumptions are realistic. The election could take place online if we spend 1 day of full-fledged war between Israel and Gaza cost $100 million, even more. If we spend $100 million, we can make all these assumptions a reality, in my opinion. You can challenge those assumptions. Okay, I hear no questions. You can ask those questions later. So I'm going to be, first of all, I need some people to act as leaders in this simulation. I need someone to be, I think that I had a conversation before the simulation, and we have a Hamas leader, correct?
Yes, Joseph, that would be me.
Okay, Natalie. Okay, Natalie, you are the Hamas leader. And okay, and we need Israeli Prime Minister. Do we have someone to act as Israeli Prime Minister?
I can be Israeli Prime Minister.
Okay, Giacomo.
Carl Goldberg has his hand raised. I'm not sure why.
Who?
Carl Goldberg.
Oh, okay. Carl, do you want to be the Israeli Prime Minister?
No. I had a question, but that can wait until you finish this segment.
Okay. And I need a PA, Palestinian Authority leader. Do we have a volunteer for that? PA, Palestinian Authority. Did anyone raise his hand or anyone?
I'll do the PA if no one else wants to.
Okay, Charles. Okay, Carl, what's your question?
My question had to do with the government that you are proposing. I haven't heard that this government is going to have any powers of enforcement of the laws that you want to promulgate. And I don't understand what it means to have a government without any powers of enforcement. Can you explain that?
No, we haven't really passed legislation to enforce our legislation.
But how can you have any powers of enforcement, even when you pass legislation? What does it mean if you can't enforce it?
Well, we believe that because we are, this is what you're really talking about is democracy. How
yes.
democracy function, okay?
Well,
All democracy,
I actually, excuse me for interrupting, but what I'm talking about is the very definition of government. You
Right.
call it a government, but if it doesn't have any powers of enforcement, actually it's nothing more than an NGO making suggestions without enforcement power.
okay, the enforcement power really come from legitimacy given to it by the people. All governments, the Israeli government, the American government, all governments in democracy get their power from their legitimacy. Once the people accept them as legitimate, then they are able to create enforcement mechanism that the people accept. If they are not legitimate, if the people do not see them as legitimate, then it is very hard for them to create enforcement mechanism. And we believe it's not going to be any different with the IPC. Okay, so I'm going to be asking you, the rest of you, to act as either Israeli or Palestinian parliament members. The rest of you, as many as you can. So I'm asking you to choose your nationality to be either Palestinian or Israeli, and to understand that you are representing your district only, that your district may be a mixed district. It could be either Israeli, it could be Israeli and Palestinian district. And then we'll do, I am having this map for you to help you decide whether you are Israeli or Palestinian and what district, because I'll be asking you during the simulation. I hear an echo. Dan, can you somehow? Okay, so I'm asking you to choose. Are you Israeli or Palestinian? Are you in a mixed district? Are you in an exclusive district? And I'm asking you to be intellectually honest and to remain representing your district throughout the simulation. And I'm asking you to, I'll ask you to vote. And I may be asking you what district you're representing. So let's do a sample voting. Let's have the Palestinian parliament members vote. Just vote yes as if you're a Palestinian parliament member, if you chose to be a Palestinian parliament member. Okay, so we have, okay, I don't know why one person voted no, but it's okay. So we have 10 Palestinian parliament members. So and let's have the Israeli parliament member vote. Okay, and we have 4 Israeli parliament members in this district, in this simulation today. So that it is clear, you are only representing your district. If you are a Palestinian or Israeli, you represent your district. You do not represent the Palestinian people or the Israeli people. You're representing your district. Your vote should be based on what's good for your district. Okay. I see Nasir joined. Nasir, do you want to be the Palestinian Authority leader? Okay. I know, Charles, but you say if nobody else, so it sounds like, all right. First order of business is the Constitution. Libby, would you be so kind as to read the first page of the Constitution?
We believe that Palestinians and Israelis are entitled to equal rights under the law and guaranteed human rights and freedom. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation does not intend to supersede or supplant the Palestinian or Israeli government, nor to abrogate or undermine any agreements between those governments. We recognize the need to work with the Israeli and Palestinian governments. Our purpose is to resolve conflicts and to expand the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis in a fair and equitable manner. We believe in equal rights under the law, guaranteed human rights, and freedom for all.
Okay, so the important part of this page is that, by the way, this is really not the Constitution. This is an explanation of the Constitution. If you want to read the actual Constitution, go to the website. But this part says that the Israeli and the Palestinian governments can agree to whatever they want, including a two-state solution, including borders, whatever they want. And constitutionally, the common government is prohibited from undermining or superseding those agreements between them. Can you go to the second page? Can you read the second page, please? And let me go to it. Please, Libby.
We voluntarily give the legislatures and the governments of Israel and Palestine veto power over legislation we pass relating to the domain of control of those governments. We believe in the separation of power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We believe in the creation of a permanent secular government for all the people residing in Israel and Palestine. We believe in having a separate judicial branch relating to IPC legislation with Israeli and Palestinian judges, with a system to avoid biased decisions based on nationality.
Okay, so here we are talking about the safeguards that are being given to both the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. And the safeguards are that would guarantee for them that we can only pass legislation that is acceptable to both sides. And because in order to accomplish that, we give both governments a veto power over our legislation. Does anyone have any questions regarding this Constitution? Okay, hearing no questions, let's have a vote to ratify the Constitution. The Palestinian parliament members, please vote first. Do you ratify the Constitution?
Is Nasir going to be the PA?
No, you are.
Oh, okay.
Okay. 91% of the, publish the result. 91% of the Palestinian parliament members voted to ratify the Constitution. One person declined to, voted no. In reality, that person would be expelled from the parliament, and the person who received the second number of votes in his district will become parliament member. The person who voted no will be expelled, because in order to be in the parliament, you must accept the Constitution. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members, please vote. Okay, publish the results. 5 out of 5, 100% voted in favor of the Constitution. So congratulations, we have a constitution. We do not have a speaker. I don't see a speaker unless I am wrong. So let's go to the next order of business. And by the way, the Israeli and the Palestinian and the Hamas leader are not given a veto power over this constitution because this constitution does not violate their sovereignty. With Israel, or we believe that the Israeli government, the Hamas government, and the PA will not object to this because, first of all, they have no reason to object to a common government. They don't have the legal authority, the moral, the technical authority, and they never really attempted to disrupt our activities, and they never attempted to disrupt previous attempt to create a common government. In fact, we had an election on December 12, 2012. We had a full-page ad in the New York Times. In fact, we did have the election, and we separated the area into 300 districts. There was no attempt from the time we published this ad in the New York Times until the time of this ad appeared, I believe in October, October 1st, 2012, there was no attempt by either the Israeli or the Palestinian governments to disrupt the election. And like we said, like I said, they don't have a reason to do it, and they don't have the ability to do it. Okay, so now that we have the parliament members and we have a president, I'm the president, I am going to swear allegiance as a president. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of president of the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. Does anyone have any questions before I ask you to pledge allegiance to the, and this is just a simulation, so don't worry about it. Does anyone have any question regarding this Pledge of Allegiance? I hear questions, so I'm asking both the Israeli and the Palestinian parliament members, either raise your biological or your virtual hand, and I'm gonna administer the oath. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute my duties as legislator for the Israeli-Palestinian Parliament and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. Okay, so I assume you all said yes. The main thing is now your obligation is, as parliament member, is not to the Israeli government, not the Palestinian government, but to the common government. You are an obligated, you swore an oath to the common government. This is why you cannot serve in both the Israeli government and the common government. You cannot serve in the Palestinian government or Hamas government and the common government. You can only serve in this government, and it's also in the Constitution. And because you are required to swear an oath to this Constitution only. Okay, now we're going to take a vote. Our first order of business, we have a parliament, we have a president, and the first order of business is a declaration to grant a veto power. Libby, could you please read it loud?
The Confederation is the government of the entire population of Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. We hereby bestow a veto power relating to legislation affecting sovereignty to the following: the government of Israel, the Palestinian Authority, Hamas. In the event of changes in government, this legislation may be amended or repealed.
So that's important. If those governments fall, or if they are no longer in power or able to have sovereignty, we can change the legislation. So does anyone have any questions before we vote on this declaration about this granting a veto power to the government of Israel, the Palestinian Authority, and Hamas? Carl, do you have a question?
Well, the question I have is essentially a semantic one. You're using the word constitution, but in fact, it's nothing more than a statement of belief. It's like a mission statement. It's not a constitution the way the word constitution is used in all governments in the world that have a constitution, where they describe the powers that they have and the separation of powers and so on. You don't have that because you can't have that. And so the statement of belief is fine, but that's all it is a statement of belief. It's a mission statement and not a constitution, linguistically.
Okay, well, our parliament member accepted it as constitution. We are not bound by any definition. Our purpose is to make peace, and it's not necessarily the word constitution could be, even if it doesn't meet that definition, I believe it does, but we call it a constitution. We accepted it as constitution. Our parliament member voted on it as constitution. So, and it's really not a significant argument one way or another. You can call it whatever you want. We call it the constitution.
Well,
Any other questions?
Well, you say you're using the word constitution differently from the way the rest of the world uses the word.
No,
I'm not sure the
I'm not
point
saying
of
that. I'm not accepting that. I am saying even if you believes that, it makes no difference. It really makes no difference if you call it a constitution or a statement of intent. It doesn't really matter. It's not that important, but we believe it is a constitution. We accept it as a constitution. Okay, hearing no other questions.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Or just to Carl? The extensive parameters of the Constitution are laid out online. There's quite a bit of information exactly what types of administration will be created and what their powers are. But that's for purposes of, that's quite extensive. And to try and move the simulation along, we do kind of a Cliff Notes version here.
Okay, let's take a vote. Let's have the Palestinian parliament members vote first. Do you support a declaration of intent to grant a veto power? Okay, let's publish the vote. 64% of the Palestinian parliament member voted to give a veto power. Let's have the Israeli parliament members vote. Okay, and I think there's one more. Okay, publish the vote. 80% of the Israeli parliament members voted to give a veto power. So like this veto power, it does not belong, is not by itself given to the Israeli or the Palestinian leaders because it doesn't violate their jurisdiction. It is our own declaration. So we are going to go to the next issue, and that is declaration of peace. Libby, could you please read that? This is our declaration of peace.
Our goal is to be a shining example for peace and tolerance. We believe in the respect for all people regardless of religion or gender. We oppose the politicization of religion. We are committed to protect all people of all religions and to value the sanctity of life. All people are equal. All religions are equal. The practice of religion is voluntary and shall not be imposed. The land belongs to no religion, and no war shall be imposed on the account of religion. We encourage all governments of the world to adopt this resolution, and we hereby submit this declaration to the Israeli government the Palestinian government and Hamas, and I think there's something else down there.
Okay, let me try to. We encourage all governments of the world to adopt this resolution. So it's not subject to a veto, but we encourage the governments, including the Israeli and the Palestinian government, to. So I see here Chaim Breshit, and I believe two people raised their hands. So let's start with Chaim. Do you have a question, Chaim? Please unmute yourself if you are muted. Okay, let's
Sorry,
go.
yeah. Bearing in mind that Israel is calling itself and also defining itself by legislation as the Jewish state, that is a total contradiction of what you just read, which looks at religion as a matter of the individual. In Israel, it is not. For example, Jews cannot marry others. So you are actually agreeing to have the main government, the only government which is a real government, because the Palestinian government is not yet a real government and may not be. So the only powerful government in this confederation is a religious defining government. So I don't understand how you see this working with what you just read.
Okay, could you tell me exactly what line you have a issue with?
Well, the line that the religion is a matter for the individual. I don't remember the exact.
Okay, you have it in front of
I
you.
can't see it.
Do you accept the idea that all we believe in respect for all people, regardless of religion?
Of course.
And what about our goal is to be a shining example for peace and tolerance?
Well, how can we even write this down when Israel is the strongest proof that this is not the case, neither in Israel nor in Palestine, because Israel is controlling Palestine.
Yeah, well, we are a separate government. We are not Israel. We are not Palestine.
I understand that. My question is, how can you accept to the Confederation a government which is against everything that you are actually outlining in the Constitution?
I don't understand. We are a separate government. We have 300 parliament members, and we have our own belief. We were elected.
I don't have a problem with your own belief. I
Okay.
accept that you have that belief, and I even support it. I just ask, how can you have a confederation, the main member of which is actually not accepting such an important principle?
No,
By
we are taking
its own legislation.
Yeah, we are taking a vote on that. So let's take a vote. Have the Palestinian parliament members please vote. Do you agree with the legislation regarding so? Okay, so 78% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this declaration of peace. I'm sorry, go ahead and publish it again. I don't know if it was published. And let's have the Israeli parliament members vote. We need more Israeli parliament members. Publish the vote. 80% of the Israeli parliament members voted in favor of this declaration. Does anyone else have a question regarding this declaration? I believe another person raised his hand. Now, this declaration is not given a veto power. We don't give a veto power because it doesn't infringe on the sovereignty. But let me ask the Hamas leader, are you going to, do you accept, do you agree with this declaration? Mrs. Hamas leader.
Yes, Joseph, we agree.
Okay. The Prime Minister of Israel, do you agree with this legislation, with this declaration? Giacomo. Prime
I
Minister.
agree.
Okay, and Charles, the Palestinian Authority?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I hope that it answers your question. We
There
are,
are two other hands up, though, in case there are questions.
okay. Any,
Hanak and Nasser.
okay, does anyone have a question? Just speak up, please. I
Oh.
I don't really.
Actually,
see that.
I didn't realize that I can unmute myself. Hello, hey Joseph, how are you?
Good, how are you, Nasir? Haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, sorry, I was been doing some traveling. I wanted to touch base on what Chaim said, because I see maybe there's the confusion. What is, because this, for example, the point that he says on the point that says here, it says, we oppose the politicization of religion. So for example, let's take, for example, Israel a year and a half ago had the new state law, the State of the Jew laws, where in fact, labeling Israel as a state of the Jewish people, the Hebrew language, etc. So I think what needs to be clear is that there is a constitution for the Confederation and there's a constitution for the state of Israel. And sometimes these have opposing sort of policies.
Israel does not have a constitution.
Well, their laws, for example. So how do we reconcile that you have a government of Israel that just made a very racist sort of type of law, disregarding 25% of its population within the 1948 territories versus this? This is the problem maybe that he's maybe addressing.
Yeah, no,
And
we are not here to reconcile. We are here to make our own statement.
That's what I'm saying, but that's the confusion that people have, I think. When they read this, they're saying, but this doesn't apply to today's state of Israel. This is why the Constitution every week that or 2 weeks that we read it, we're having people who have issues with it because there seems to be a problem in differentiating between the Confederation and the existing governments. And that's
Right,
what maybe
and-
needs to be clear.
I am aware of that, and that will happen all the time. What we are saying is us as a large number, remember 5 million people voted, and we have 300 parliament members. We are making our own statements. We are not bound by the Israeli narrative or the Palestinian narrative. We have our own narrative. Okay, any other questions? All right, let's go to the
Yes,
next.
I do have one, Joseph. Good evening, everyone. This is Anna.
Oh,
Hi.
hi, Anna.
Yes, I'm neither Israeli nor Palestinian.
Yes.
I reside in England, UK right now, but I'm really warm towards, your efforts, and I applaud what you're doing right now. My only question is, I don't see anything related to human rights on your declaration of peace. How are they going to be respected and protected? Because we do not want to depart from the cultural heritage, neither of the Israelis nor of the Palestinians. I think the Confederation has to embrace all cultures and heritages and then move forward.
Okay,
Pioneering.
I'm surprised you don't see anything about human rights. We are saying we respect all people regardless of religion and gender. We oppose the politicization of religion.
Yes.
We are committed to protect all people of all religion and to value the sanctity of life. All people are equal. So I think that does have to do with human life. But Anna, you can, if you feel that something has to be amended in the Declaration of Peace, go ahead and send it to me, and we'll look into it. But right now we voted on this, and I'm asking for questions, not comments, right? Really, and then any other questions?
Yes, my question actually, thank you. You partly answered it, and thank you very much for that. Is that I don't see all of the basic human rights being included in this, like in humane treatment.
Yeah.
You say
We are-
sanctity of life, that's yes, extreme, and that's very, very nice. What about inhumane treatment or illegal incarceration? Just a bit more specific, otherwise it's beautiful and it can move forward. Yes, it's very positive.
Okay. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? All right, let's go to the next order of business. And that is a Confederation Police Force. Libby, could you, this is subject to a veto. Libby, could you please read the legislation regarding a Confederation Police Force?
Equal number of Israeli and Palestinians on each level, different and distinct uniforms, independent of the Israeli and Palestinian security forces, in cooperation with the separate Israeli and Palestinian authorities, address sensitive religious, cultural, and language requirements, facilitate the operation of the joint economic zones, investigate corruption by administrators who refuse to teach tolerance, investigate allegations of intolerance and racist hate crime against Israelis or Palestinians, assist in managing checkpoints, guard the Parliament building and threats against members of the Confederation, facilitate access to and safety of religious facilities. And we hereby submit this legislation to the Israeli government, the Palestinian government, and Hamas. We bestow upon them a veto power, which may be exercised in the next 60 days.
All right. Does anyone, before we vote, does anyone have any questions? Questions, not comment, but questions regarding the Confederation Police Force legislation?
Yes, I do have one, Joseph. This is Anna.
Yeah, hi.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Haim. Yes, I couldn't raise my hand, so thank you anyway. I'll go first and I'll be quick.
Okay.
Actually, you're talking about assisting in managing checkpoints. What is the purpose of the continuation of the checkpoints in the new this confederation?
Okay, we didn't say that there is a purpose. We are
right, because you included.
We are trying to see what would be acceptable to both the Israelis and the Palestinians. Okay.
Yes, I think that has to be stricken out, and perhaps border control makes sense. Yes, thank you.
We are not for perfection. Okay.
Oh yes, of course. Yes, I'm just.
Okay. Yeah. Perfection.
Everything else is fine. Thank you.
Perfection. If you are from England, you know that Winston Churchill said that perfection is the enemy of good. We are not here for perfection. We are trying to see what's the best for the people of Israel and Palestine under the circumstances.
I'm not for perfection. No, okay. No, right. No. Okay. I'm just for betterment.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Bearing in mind that currently the Palestinian police, the 17 organizations which constitute it, are unable and maybe also unwilling in many cases to protect the citizens of Palestine in Area C, and that Israel is going into Area C whenever it wants. What is there in this constitution to stop this situation continuing? Because if it does, then the Confederation is the nastiest joke I can imagine.
Okay, but what is your question regarding the Confederation Police Force?
Well, what is it going to do? I mean, obviously.
Well,
these-
it says here, it lists equal number of Israeli Palestinian, different and distinct uniform, independent of the Israeli and Palestinian government, in cooperation with separate Israeli and Palestinian, address sensitive
Okay,
religious.
Clarify my question. When settlers currently beat up, burn trees, kill people, who will be responsible for bringing them to justice?
Well, if they violate legislation that the Confederation passes, then the Confederation Police Force, as part of the executive branch of the government, will bring them to justice in front of the judicial branch of the government, which is the judges.
You mean the police force of the Confederation would be in confrontation with the Israeli government, which is supporting the settlers? Is this what you mean?
No, this is a spin that you're putting on it. Everything here is subject to a veto power by the Israeli and the Palestinian government, okay? So the Israeli and the Palestinian government, if they give us the authority by not vetoing, then we will have our own power.
So let me ask you then a further question. The Israeli government will obviously veto this. So what do you do then?
Well, let's vote. First of
I
all,
don't mean this government. This is not a government. I mean, the Israeli government, I think you know enough about to know that it will veto every item on this constitution. So what's the point of this?
well, you claim that you know how they will vote. I am saying that I don't know if you were at the beginning, but let me go over this.
I was here at the beginning.
Okay, so here is the answer. First of all, they have no reason to object. Second of all, they have no legal authority. Oh, this is to the Confederation itself. But the answer to your question is that they do not have a response as an Israeli government. They do not have a response to all these issues that are being raised here, okay? So you create a common government, and the common government gives legitimacy to certain actions, because the Israeli government and the Palestinian government are not totalitarian government. Even if they were totalitarian government, they have to accept reasonable legislation. They have to accept, because otherwise they would not be able to justify their opposition to reasonable legislation. That's how.
At the moment, the Israeli government is actually.
Look, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to answer your questions, okay? You may disagree. Okay, you may disagree, but this is not really a private discussion between you and I, okay? So let's take a vote. Palestinian parliament members, please vote. Okay, publish the vote, please. 92% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of a common Confederation police force. Let's have the Israeli vote. I think there is one more Israeli, but that's okay. Share the result. 100% of the Israeli parliament members vote. So now let's go to the Hamas leader. Mrs. Hamas leader, are you going to veto this legislation? Hamas leader, are you going to veto this legislation?
No, no veto.
Okay. The Prime Minister of Israel, are you going to veto this legislation?
I would, I tend to want to veto it, except if we have, make it absolutely clear that Israeli police forces can continue operating the way they are today, and the IPC police is only allowed to operate as long as Israel is happy about it and as long as it doesn't interfere with Israeli police action.
We are not, this legislation does not remove your power to agree to any with the Palestinian or to act unilaterally. It doesn't take away the Palestinians' right to act unilaterally. But we are saying that there will be a common police force, and it will be in cooperation with the separate Israeli and Palestinian authorities.
Okay, in this case, I can lift my veto.
Okay, so you're not vetoing? How about the Palestinian Authority, President?
I accept it.
Okay, great. All right, so now we have, we passed legislation. We are going to create a Confederation police force. And let's go to the post-simulation survey, and then we'll have a discussion. After participating in the simulation, do you support a common government for the people of Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, that will coexist with the Israeli and the Palestinian governments? Please vote. Everyone vote now, not Israeli or everyone, just. Okay, publish the vote. Okay, 91% voted yes. 1 person voted no. The person who voted no, could you please identify yourself?
Yes,
Who is that?
Chaim.
Okay, and what is the, could you explain the reason why you voted no?
I think I already explained it before. Unless there is enforcement power to the Confederation government, the result will be exactly what we are seeing now, when the Palestinian government, despite the fact that it has police forces, is unable to protect Palestinian life. It never confronts the Israeli police forces.
Okay, so you are saying that a Israeli-Palestinian Confederation police force will have no effect whatsoever.
I'm sorry to say that that's what I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
And I
And-
also
and-
voted no. I don't know if you said one person, because I did vote no as well.
Okay, and so Nasir, what is your alternative to?
It's okay. I'll tell you what the reason why. I'm a Palestinian with family in Jerusalem and in the West Bank.
No, Nasir.
But
Nasir,
I'm gonna tell you why.
I'm not here to listen to a lecture. I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm
we
asking
go
you
through this every week.
specifically, what is your alternative to peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians?
My alternative is a confederation that protects citizens. Okay, with the current, you see, a confederation.
And
has
how
to
would that confederation be created?
Well,
How do you intend to dismantle the Israeli and the Palestinian
Well,
government?
any confederation that comes into existence that still allows checkpoints, like the Prime Minister just said, that allows
Nasir,
Israeli
Nasir,
troops.
I'm sorry.
I'm telling you, I'm
how do
answering your question, and you're not
No,
letting me
you're
answer.
not. You're not. How do you intend to dismantle the Israeli
By
and
ensuring the
Palestinian
protections of Palestinian people and access to their land and from land seizures. If any confederation does not protect that, then it shouldn't exist.
Okay, we know now that they do not have equality.
Okay,
We know
then there is no confederation. What's the
Okay,
confederation
but
for?
how-
What's
but
it for if it doesn't
no,
protect the
I'm
fundamental
sorry,
rights of
I'm
the
sorry, I'm gonna give
citizens?
you
What is
one
it
more
for?
opportunity. How do you intend to dismantle the Israeli, the Palestinian, and the Hamas government?
How do I dismantle them? It's not about
Yes.
dismantling them. It's about coming up
Okay,
with.
so if you do not have a plan to dismantle them, you are basically saying, let's continue with them in existence and have some hypothetical perfect solution. And even and when we are presenting,
Okay, if you're offering me that choice, yes,
okay,
because it accepts something that's going to basically
so-
legitimize the
yeah.
current situation versus continue it. At least we have international rights and international law on our
Right,
side.
okay.
But to
So-
to
so
go
in my
forward with the
opinion,
confederation that
in-
band-aids the situation and allows Israel to continue what it's doing, I absolutely say no confederation then.
Okay, so.
Joseph, I have an
All right,
answer to your
that's fine.
question.
That's fine.
I have
That's
an
fine.
answer to your question, Joseph.
Yeah, please.
The answer is this. What happened in South Africa?
Wait. To what question are you answering?
You asked Nasir what his idea for a better solution, right? And I have a better solution.
Yeah.
In South Africa,
No,
the
I'm not talking about
apartheid state-
South Africa. I'm talking about Israel, Palestine.
I'm
How-
giving you an example
How do
from
you-
history.
How do you dismantle the Israel in South
I'm
Africa?
trying
how
to
do you
tell you, and you're
dismantle
not
the
allowing
Israeli-
me to speak. You're not allowing me to speak.
Because you're not invited to give a lecture.
I'm
You're-
not giving a lecture. I want to give you 2 sentences and you're not allowing me to speak and you're wasting time. If it was possible in South Africa to dismantle apartheid, if it was possible in Northern Ireland to dismantle a racist control, why is it not the same in
Well,
Israel and
see,
Palestine?
you
Why
didn't-
is it not possible?
You didn't give me an answer. You gave me a question.
No, I'm
I've
giving you
been
an
through this
answer.
a
It's
million
possible
times.
to do this.
I've been in this a million times, and I know that you do not have a plan how to dismantle the Israeli government. Let's not play games.
There is a
have-
plan. There is a
not
plan
have
of
plan to
45
dismantle-
million.
We
It's
have
called
we have an
BDS.
Israeli
And
government.
you are not
We have-
allowing me to give you this.
No,
BDS
because
is
you
against
asked the
the
question. You did not-
apartheid regime in Israel.
All right, I'm going to give you one more opportunity. You tell me, how do you how do you plan to dismantle the Israeli and the Palestinian and the Hamas governments?
The simple answer is boycott, divestment, and sanction against the Israeli government will have the same result that it had in those other places, especially in South Africa, against apartheid, against occupation. And this is going to be successful if enough of
until that happened,
like Nasir, until that happened, I'm not going to support a cover-up of apartheid and a cover-up.
all right, that's a legitimate response. And I am saying that you are not a person of peace because you are saying to the people, wait and suffer until sometimes in the future, I don't know when. Here we have a plan to be implemented right now. I don't want any improvement in your lives. In fact, I want you to continue to suffer until somehow South Africa will happen here. And I am saying that's a preposterous position. It's not a position to help the people of Israel and Palestine.
But that's
Joseph,
not what
you know,
we're saying.
in South Africa, it took less to get this solution than what is happening in Palestine. It was resolved by 1993. South African apartheid started in 1948 at the same time that Israeli apartheid started. So you're wrong.
And we still have the Israeli apartheid. We don't have the Palestine. So doesn't that tell you that there is a difference here? That the world accepted, that the Israeli and the Palestinian people accepted the politicization of religion, where in South Africa, they did not accept the politicization of religion.
So you accept politicization of religion? I thought that.
No, I am saying that, no, I'm saying that There is a difference between South Africa and Israel. In
Of course
South
there
Af-
is.
In
Of
South
course there is.
Africa, they did not accept the politicization, not the white, not the black. In Israel, both sides accept the politicization of religion, the Israelis and the Palestinians. And therefore, the South African comparison is not going to happen. It's a wrong comparison.
It's
But
not
let me
a
ask you this,
comparison.
let me ask you this. How many years will you be willing to wait before you think of another, if there is no dismantling of the Israeli government, of the Jewish government in Israel? How many more years
This is
are you willing
this is
to
a
wait?
nonsense question. I'm not ready to wait another week. That's
Okay,
not the
so
question.
what do you do in the meantime?
Well, in the meantime, we have to have BDS against apartheid,
Right,
against
so let's say,
occupation,
so let's
against
say you have,
militarized.
let's say you have BDS, okay? And let's say it did not dismantle the Israeli government, okay?
Well,
At
it
what
will
point- at what
dismantle.
point-
It will dismantle the international support for the Israeli government, like it did dismantle the international support for South Africa.
Fine, you're saying it will, okay? I'm
I'm
asking
sure
you-
it will.
okay, but what if it doesn't? How long will you continue to think that it will? When will you start thinking of a new solution?
I think we are thinking about a new solution. There is a growing movement for one democratic state in Palestine. One democratic state in
Okay,
Palestine,
look,
like one democratic state in South
I
Africa or in
understand.
Northern
I
Ireland.
understand, but you are avoiding my question.
No, I'm not. I'm
You
telling
are,
you.
you are. I'm asking you, what if it didn't happen? If there is no dismantling of the Israeli government in 10 years, in 20
Joseph,
years, in
Joseph,
50 years?
let me ask you a question.
No,
You
no,
are
no,
looking forward.
that's not a sincere discussion. Because in
Of course it is.
reality, you do not have an answer. And
No,
that's
I
why
have
you
an
are
answer.
referring to a question. You do
I
not
have
have an
an
answer.
answer.
I have an
Thank you.
answer. I have an answer. I am saying it's an impossibility to dismantle the Israeli government. It's an impossibility to dismantle the Hamas government and the PA. And any idea that you can have them dismantle is being irresponsible to the people of Israel and Palestine. It's irresponsible because you're telling them that somehow in a different part of the world with different sets of values will be applicable to Israel and Palestine. In my opinion, that's irresponsible. That's not wanting peace.
So
Well,
is it,
you are now telling me that you don't believe in the very principles that you read to us. You're telling me, or us.
No,
that-
I'm not. You are circumventing,
Let me say that.
what I am saying. I am
No.
saying I can have those principles without the destruction of the government of Israel.
Just a
I am-
minute, you are saying that because of politicization of religion, Israel is different. I agree with you. And that's what we need to end. But you don't intend to end it. You don't intend to end the occupation.
I am
You
saying,
intend to end the
I am
apartheid.
saying it's not a possibility to remove the government of Israel. It's not a possibility. And it's not a possibility to remove, it was a possibility to create one state in 1947. But at this time, if you say, unless I get the perfect solution, I am willing to have the people of Israel and Palestine suffer forever. Unless I get the perfect solution, I am saying you are not a person of peace.
Well, you're a person of peace. You agree to accept apartheid, to accept the occupation, to accept the settlements, to accept Israeli racism.
No, you are just
accept
saying that I
Israel as a
agree to
religious
that.
state.
No,
You're
no,
a person of peace.
No, you're just saying that I agree to that. I am saying that
You just told us it's not possible to take it apart.
I'm saying it's not possible to remove. No, don't circumvent my words, please. Do not. I am saying it's not possible to remove the government of Israel. Okay? Do not circumvent my words.
Why is it not possible? It was possible to remove
Because the government of,
Union,
okay,
and it's
now we're
not
going
possible
forward.
to remove the
Because the
government
government of Israel is supported by the people of Israel. The majority of the people, the majority of them are Jewish. They have strong military. They have political power, both in Israel and outside of Israel. They have nuclear weapon, and it's not possible to confront them head on to dismantle them. In fact,
this is what I'm saying, that you accept Israel as what it is, an apartheid state, a militarized state,
again,
an occupation force.
you are circumventing my words. I am saying that I am accepting the fact that it is impossible to dismantle the government of Israel. I'm not saying that I am accepting Israel the way it is. I am saying
it was possible to take apart the Soviet Union, the strongest military power apart from the United States, a huge political force. It was possible to do that, but it's not possible to take apart Israel. This is serious.
Look,
Can
I'm
I-
not
can
here
I
to deal with
make an attempt here?
circumvention of my discussion, okay? You are comparing something that is not comparable, that is not real, that is not, but I think go ahead, Charles.
Okay. So Chaim and Nasir, first of all, I appreciate your moral position. I understand why you would hold this position. However, things progress one step at a time. They don't just, even, you want to talk about the fall of the Berlin Wall, that was preceded by the people of East Germany getting Western television for years. Okay? The people of Israel could change their government if they wanted to. Right now, they don't want to. And if they don't want to, what you're saying is that the IPC doesn't have the power to make them change. Very true. This is not that kind of approach. They can be delegitimized over time.
That is
When
what
people,
I'm saying.
when people see an example of Israelis and Palestinians giving each other equal appreciation, equal sovereignty, equal recognition, that puts the government in the position of being unreasonable over and over again, which they're doing right now. I understand that, which is why, we have BDS and so on. But the government of Israel can portray those efforts as an external power that's trying to have power over them and take away their rights. If you have something that's within cooperation within the country, of a large portion of people who are saying, look, you guys are behaving ridiculous, and prove it by their actions, you're going to have confrontations between the Israeli police and the IPC police, probably in this case. And what's going to be obvious to more and more people is the narrative, the failure of the Israeli government's narrative that there is no path forward. Over time, as more people become more trusting of each other, all these changes can happen. But having the expectation that they must happen and that they will happen without actually having a plan to enact them, to do so, which is what I think we're trying to present here, is unreasonable, from my opinion.
Is it unreasonable to say, I appreciate what you say, and I believe that your moral principle is behind this, but I think it's mistaken. because what you're saying is we'll leave it as it is because we can't change it, because it is supported by the United States, by Europe, etc. We know all that. I accept your judgment that Israel is not going to change itself, if I understood you correctly, because I think if we think that Israel will change itself, nothing will happen.
Can I give a Palestinian response to that? I mean, is that all right?
Okay, let's have, I'm gonna call you the order of discussion here.
Okay, so you guys don't,
Charles
yeah,
already
because that's what I'm
spoke.
saying. This is
Nasir,
looking at it
hold on a second.
from a perspective.
Nasir, hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Nasir, and then Sean, and okay, go ahead. Nasir.
And then
So
I would like to respond to them if I could after,
Sure.
after they respond to
Okay.
me.
You know, the problem, Charles, is, and I'm speaking from a Palestinian perspective, and I know when every time I make this personal, everyone tells me to be quiet, okay? But here's the thing. Every time in history we say, okay, let's just agree to something now and everything else we'll put it to the future. But the thing is, what Palestinians, you know what concerns Palestinians the most? It's not about confederation, it's not about statehood, it's not about anything. It's about the day-to-day things, land seizures. Like, for example, Natalie Awad said that she's a Palestinian by ancestry, but she gets problems traveling to Palestine. It's about people being separated between this land barrier. It's about access to jobs. It's because of borders and because of checkpoints and things like this. These are the things that concern Palestinians, the day-to-day things, more than democracy versus confederation versus this other stuff. Everyone has a family member who was stopped at the airport and told to go back to whatever country they came from. Every family. I have a sister who was held for 2 days in jail and then returned back to the United States, who was born in Jerusalem, who lived in Jerusalem for 25 years of her life. So these are the things. So the question is, why should we accept anything that doesn't address the basics, international human rights now? It's ridiculous for me to tell anybody your international equal rights, what's given to you by international rights, we'll put that on hold, maybe later. We can't discuss those things right now because it's too sensitive to the people of Israel. Wake up, Israel, wake up. You cannot be the dominant power. And I'd rather sit and fight for 1,000 years before accept anything less than what's basic human rights. Simple.
Okay, Nasir, no one is telling you to abandon your dreams, to abandon your tactic, to abandon anything that you want to do in order to accomplish the results you want. We're not an exclusive method. So my question to you is, do you want us to stop building a common government until you achieve your goals by other means?
Any common government that does not address the basic fundamental rights of the people should not exist. Yes, you should stop.
That's not my question, Nasir.
You should stop.
No, Nasir.
You should stop unless the Confederation.
Okay, so why are you in this simulation?
I'm asking myself the same question, to be honest with you.
Okay, but you are. Okay, so there are many Palestinians who support the common government. There are also Israelis who feel the exact same way as you do, but in the opposite direction. Okay, they say, why should we compromise on why should we compromise? We are the strong party. We are here to eventually remove all the Palestinians. Why are you trying to?
And they're in the Knesset and they're in power.
Yeah. Okay. So
meanwhile, if a Palestinian says it,
so
they're not the majority. So don't start making it out like everybody in the Knesset is like the Jewish version of Hitler.
We're getting there.
Yeah,
we're getting there.
But I am telling you,
all
Nasir,
three of them.
Nasir, your thinking is also the exact same thinking that Israelis have. Okay.
I'm not asking to be better than Israelis. I'm not asking to be superior. I'm asking for equality.
In the opposite direction. And what I am saying,
do not compare what I said with what right-wing racist Israelis say. I'm asking to be equal, not to be better. That's the difference.
I am not saying that you're not. I am saying that there are Israelis in the not only in the Knesset, in Israeli society, just like you in Palestinian society, who feel that victory, as they see it, is coming. And what we are doing is preventing them from achieving the victory they want.
I think that's unfair, Joseph. Let us assume
Why
that
is it unfair? What's
Because I
unfair
think-
about it?
because
It's not
I think
unfair. They have a
every
cult
leader-
leader in Gaza who told them that Israel was going to be wiped off the map, you know, somehow sparing all the Palestinians that live within Israel, which shows you how delusional they are. But, you know, some magic nuclear weapon was going to come from Iran, I guess, and wipe us all off the map on July 8th. Well, guess what, idiots? It's July 10th. Where's your nuke? Where's your Iran? You guys need to get out of your illusions and approach us as equals. Yes, the Israeli government is screwed up, but come on, guys. Quit with these nonsense fantasies.
Okay,
I was going to say that all of us here want peace, but I can see that not all of us here want peace. We just heard someone speaking like that. I think if we assume that we all want a solution,
I
and we
want
put
peace.
that
I'm not an
solution-
academic like you. I don't live in a fantasy land of an ivory tower. I live in Israel. I don't know where the heck you are.
it doesn't matter. But look, we see this issue all the time. If some Israelis and some Palestinians say, unless it's a perfect solution, and that's what we're really proposing.
Now,
We're proposing
Nasir
a
said to
perfect-
you,
You
that
will not
all
agree.
wants-
You will not
all he
agree.
wants is to start from a point of equality, Joseph. I don't think you as an Israeli should actually present him as someone who doesn't want peace because he doesn't support exactly what you put forward. We are having an argument.
I am
And
saying, I'm
argument
saying that
is-
if you are proposing, if you are of the belief that unless it's perfect, I agree. What I'm proposing is not perfect. It's far from my own personal views. But when you want to make peace, you have to understand that perfection is the enemy of good.
Well, this we were told for many, many decades now that we have to start talking. And there was talking now for 40 years. And what we achieve is bigger settlements, more apartheid, more war crimes, less safety for
I agree.
Palestinians in their
I
daily life.
agree. I
And
agree.
that's what Nasir, I know you agree. I don't think that you're a warmonger, please. I'm saying that what you're suggesting is going to be used like Oslo was as a cover-up for what the Israelis are
no.
doing.
Yeah,
Oslo
everything's a
was-
Jewish
Oslo
conspiracy
was
against
an-
Arabs.
Oslo was an agreement between the failed Israeli government and the failed Palestinian government. It was a political, we are proposing a common government for Palestinians and Israelis together. We are saying, hey, both of you failed. That doesn't prevent us from making our own government, our own political. And you are saying, no, we are waiting until one of you or both of you are dismantled. It's just like, it's like you go to a doctor and the doctor says to you, hey, unless you become healthy, unless you lose weight, I'm not going to treat you. Unless you have to deal with reality right now, with the patient right now, not with some future event that may or may not happen. The doctor cannot tell the patient,
Nasir is telling you is
lose 100
exactly-
pounds. What?
But what Nasir is telling you is you're not dealing with reality. This solution is no solution. It doesn't deal with the life of Palestinian going to work, to school, to university, to a hospital. It doesn't deal with that. And as it doesn't deal with it,
That's not
it's
true.
not a solution.
Well, it doesn't deal with it on day one. I agree. It doesn't deal with it on day one. He's not offering any alternative. He's just saying, continue to suffer until something happens. I agree with you. It doesn't deal with it on day one.
I think,
But when you have 300 parliament members, they become a political power based on equality. And that's when things will start moving. It's nothing happens on day one.
Chaim, are you familiar with the, in many of these simulations, we go through the passing of, one of the first acts of the IPC would be about teaching tolerance in schools. Do you think that something like that, first of all, would be difficult for either side to not cooperate with? And secondly, do you think that that is not something that would improve the situation? Because the test for me is, will this improve the situation or not? And, you know, you can have your opinions about it, maybe more, maybe less, pros and cons, but do you not see that something like that would definitely be something that would be a generational improvement over time as children are educated in a different way?
I think that if the students are unable to get to school, if the students are attacked on the way to school, and if Israel is not going to ever accept this, then I don't think it matters.
And do you think that an IPC police force that commands the checkpoint with Israeli soldiers would not be something that would facilitate Palestinians getting to school?
Well, frankly, I don't think it will happen because the Israeli police and army are doing the opposite. They are supporting the settlers on every single. I'm an Israeli. You know, I know what I'm talking about, and I expect that you think that by changing little things, we'll get somewhere. I'm telling you, we're not going to get somewhere, and nobody in South Africa got anywhere until they said, first, we want an end to apartheid. First, we want to have equal rights. First, we want one man, one vote. And then we will agree to sit together. That's where you start. You start with equality or you don't start at all.
Chaim, let me ask you a question. You said, you live in Israel?
Not at the moment.
Have you ever lived in Israel?
Of course.
Did you vote there?
Yes.
So you voted for an apartheid government?
No, I never voted for an apartheid government. I voted for an Arab party that wants one state.
I understand, but they also are willing to exclude the Palestinian in the West Bank and Gaza from the Israeli system.
No, I don't think so. No,
by them being an Israeli party, they are accepting the Israeli government, and you participated in the creation of an Israeli government, which included an Arab party.
I voted against all Israeli governments, and please don't twist it.
No,
I'm not
saying you voted for the Israeli government. I'm saying you were willing to accept the apartheid system by voting. Well, you did
I'm not willing to accept it.
I'm sorry, you did not insist on one state. You did not insist on one state. You did not say, I'm not willing to vote because it's an apartheid system. You said, I am willing to participate.
At a certain point, I stopped voting because of this principle. Yes, I stopped voting.
All right. Look, the question, it's very clear. We are not against any other solution. Like I said at the beginning, we are not against any other solution. We are saying, while the patient is sick, we are willing to take care of him, even if it doesn't make him completely healthy. We need to take care of him little by little. He will be healthy. What you are saying is, let the patient remain sick until something will happen and he will be happy. That's the difference.
No, I'm not saying that.
Because you're not.
Joseph, can we bring Libby and Ori into the discussion?
Yeah.
They've had their hands
But
up.
I said, Ori, would you mind if I jump ahead? Because I want to respond to something about South Africa. Is that okay with Ori?
Yeah, go ahead.
So-
Ori, you'll be after Libby, okay?
Okay, that's fine.
I wanted to bring up something that Chaim, you brought to my attention. Back in the 1980s, I think it was like 1986 or so, what brought about change in South Africa took place in Koinonia, Southern Africa, where the blacks and the whites began what was a meal sharing experience. And at risk to their very lives, they would get together, black families, white families, have meals, share their personal stories, go to each other's religious places of religion. They would go to public parks and have a picnic and be seen in public to model their willingness to come together as human beings. And in 1986, they were given a Beyond War Award for their work, their bravery. And this was really what started breaking down the apartheid in South Africa. It was the people to people relating, coming together, getting to know each other as human and equal, and seeing that the apartheid was doing a huge disservice to the whole country, not just to people who were of color. So I think that if you're going to bring up South Africa and ending apartheid, we could take some really good lessons from what they did to begin change in their communities. And that was building human relationships and care and understanding that they were all in it together.
I think you are not taking into account, please, the fact that hundreds and hundreds of millions of people supported BDS against South Africa. Without that, governments like the US and UK would never have changed their position. They didn't change their position because blacks and whites met and spoke together. They are not changing at the moment because people like me, Jews and Palestinian Arabs, are meeting in Israel and Palestine and supporting a one democratic state. Without BDS, this will not happen. Nothing will happen without BDS. That's what I'm saying.
But forcing people to like each other does not work.
I agree.
There's huge fear, there's huge hatred, there's huge misunderstanding. Until we learn how to come together and enjoy and appreciate our common humanity, nothing's going to change. We have to change the way we view each other and to understand that we're all interconnected and interrelated and interdependent. And it's to nobody's benefit to keep things as they are in Israel. For Palestinians or Israelis, they're all suffering in their own way because of this lack of willingness to work on behalf of the whole.
I'm sorry, that's not what I said. I said that people are meeting, are talking, they are planning a one democratic state. And this is what I'm supporting because it is not giving apartheid a further lease of life. It is not giving the occupation a further lease of life. And I don't know why democracy and equal rights cannot be supported by us all. And the same rights for everyone living between the Jordan River and the sea are a bad idea.
Chaim,
No one's saying that. It's a question of how we get there.
Chaim, I believe that there are many, many ways to get to the lake. There could be many rivers to the lake. And I think that our river makes more sense, but I'm not excluding your whatever system you have. I'll be happy to participate in a simulation that you have. But let's go to Ori. Ori, sorry,
I had to unmute. Okay. So the brilliance of the IPC and what I'm just going to try to speak from the way I see things, and Joseph, you're welcome to correct me. For example, with what Nasser was saying, and a lot of what he was saying is spot on. The brilliance of the IPC is that it allows grievances to be brought to a unified body so that we can reform things and make it fairer for Palestinians. And But if you just create one state, I'm afraid you end up in another civil war. And from the Palestinian activists I've talked to, they know that's a distinct possibility. And that's why a lot of them actually are not comfortable with a one-state solution. They think there's been enough wars here in the Middle East, especially in the southern Levant.
But
at the same time-
Ori, you created, you made a huge jump. If you create one state, how do you create one state? You tell me. I never heard an answer. How do you dismantle the Israeli and the Palestinian and the Hamas government to create one state? You tell me.
I don't think you, well, I think both, because Hamas and the Palestinian Authority are effectively de facto dictatorships now. All dictatorships are unstable by their nature, so we don't know either one of those could fall tomorrow. But
And the Israeli government?
the
How do
Israeli
you-
government falls every few months. So, it's a strange world we live in. Sometimes
Okay,
truth is stranger
so
than fiction,
that's a
but-
very interesting perspective. You're saying that they may fall on their own, and
Yeah,
one
of course.
state. Okay, that's a very possibility. It's not.
But I don't think that the majority of people on either side of this issue really want a one-state solution. I think the IPC is by far the best solution because it allows them self-governance along with a joint, governance kind of that can help, diffuse issues between the sides. And nothing is perfect in this world, but I don't want us to turn into Lebanon. That they're in that kind of constant cycle of government collapse, but it's now economic and social. At least Israel and Palestine still have an economy, though COVID hit very, very hard. But tourism is coming back now, and I think Israelis and Palestinians will get better off economically over the next few years. But we don't want it to get to economic and social collapse. It's bad enough that all of our governments are unstable. So something like an IPC that allows people to get together, talk with each other respectfully, vote on bills to help, facilitate freer movement, more equal rights, that kind of thing. It's to me, it's the only way to get past this. And so I that's why I love this. Sorry, I came on a little strong earlier, but I get tired of the academia. I've heard these arguments for years and years. I was a political science major. I get international relations, and and we are not South Africa. First thing, white people weren't in South Africa for 3,200 years. They showed up to do some resource extraction. And they were always a tiny minority of the population. And they stripped all of the Black people of citizenship. What exactly do we have in common with that? They couldn't use the same water fountains, couldn't go to the same beach. Our system is not fair and not equal, but it is not what happened.
You mean Palestinians have rights? They have rights of property, they have political rights, they have a right to education. All the people living in Palestine are now full citizens of somewhere? You mean this seriously?
Do they have Palestinian Authority passports or not?
Well, the Palestinian Authority is nothing. It's not a government. It's not a state. It is not acting like a state. It cannot protect, and it doesn't protect its citizens. What is the comparison between the Palestinian Authority and Israel? Israel is the sixth military power on the planet.
What country are you living in?
Sorry?
What country are you living in?
I live in Britain.
Okay. So
Why?
the murder
Why?
rate of the Palestinian territories is about, I think, about 10% less than Britain. It's 1/8 of the United States. So I don't know what utopia you think you're going to turn it into. They do live in safety. The biggest issue is the IDF and making sure that they're kept restrained, because a lot of them are teenagers. As you know, we have national conscription, and teenagers don't make great decisions, and that is being debated in the Knesset right now about turning it into a professional army so that you don't have these unjustified actions because, you know, somebody's hormone, they haven't even finished puberty yet, you know, so they don't have good judgment.
Let me ask you, Ori, you think that because the army is made of teenagers, rather than a government with a racist record, which goes from here to everywhere, this is the problem. The problem is not the racist laws, the policies. The problem is not what Israel has done since 1948. The problem is some teenagers, right?
I can't even enter in to area A and B without having a risk of my death. So don't tell me that there's some, you know, perfect society there who is willing to accept me, and it's me that's not willing to accept them. You know, I live in a mixed city. I do accept them as people, as full citizens. What I'm saying to you is, if you look on both sides of the conflict, the majority of it is driven by very young people who can't make good decisions. That's where the terrorism comes from on both sides. Now, if you want to argue that, bring me some statistics showing me 60-year-old Palestinians blowing up a bus. They don't exist. I've done this stuff. So I don't want to hear this nonsense. I want to talk about policy. Israel was trying to build a state. They believed that it was their land. They've had ancestors here for 3 millennia now. You know, so it's not like they showed up like England did to South Africa out of the blue.
You also believe that the Israeli Jews have a right.
Don't put it in my mouth. I don't believe. Go ahead. They believe. Thank you.
Let's go to Sean. He's been waiting. Sean, go ahead.
Okay, hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but we don't see you.
Okay.
Now we do.
All right. You know what? I've been hearing this debate, and my question is, how effective is the IPC going to be? You know, if you have two parties are against each other, and I'm not going to be calling out names, but if one party is have the upper hand and is trying to be above the law, how can IPC work? Because if the one
when you say two parties, what do you mean?
Well,
who are the two parties?
The Israel and Palestine, right?
The government of Israel, and the
Palestinian government of Israel.
Okay.
Government Israel and the PA. You know, but all I'm saying is,
and Hamas.
Yes. You know, how can you know? I've been hearing like these guys were saying about BDS. I'm hearing them saying about you know, dismantling and, you know, okay, fine. But all I'm asking is, how effective is the IPC if one party is being above the law and don't want to agree to all this, don't want to agree with the IPC? How effective the IPC is if you know, if Israel, Palestine, or whatever is above the law and they don't want to follow this? And some people are saying do the BDS, it's more better than IPC. But all I'm asking, how effective is the BBC if one is trying to be above the law, then don't want to follow any of this this thing you propose, Joseph?
You are asking how effective would a common government be when when basically, let's put straight on, when Israel is claiming superiority and it has superior power to that's what you're really asking, correct?
Yes. So how's the IPC gonna if it doesn't want to follow IPC or whatever tells it? Well, you know, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a very good question, and I assume it's directed to me, and let me answer that. Okay. Right. The power, the political power, is not really about military power. It's about legitimacy. Okay. And legitimacy comes from the people. Okay. Right now, the government of Israel and the Palestinian government, they have their legitimacy to act the way they act, but we are talking about the government of Israel. The government of Israel has legitimacy to act the way it acts because it has power from the people, okay? If the IPC gets 1 million, 2 million, 5 million votes, then the legitimacy of the Israeli government and the Palestinian government is going to be reduced substantially. There is going to be a new political power in the arena. It's the political power is the people themselves, the Israeli and the Palestinian people themselves. Basically, they are saying, you know what? We want to have control of our lives. It's not the governments of Israel or the Palestinian government. We want to get together, and therefore they will gain huge political power that will resonate all over the world, resonate in Israel and Palestine, and will substantially reduce the political power of the government of Israel and the Palestinian government.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one question? That's
Yes.
it. Okay, does the IPC, would it be against Palestinians, say for example, in the West Bank, whose city is under attack by Israeli settlers who just, want to go and burn some trees and beat up some 60-year-old man? Do they support the Palestinian rights of self-defense to actually kill that person? Within what is granted within us international law?
Nasir, I don't think
I'm just
that
asking because if Israel has the right to continue what it's doing, so can Palestinians have the right to defend their towns against right-wing Israeli settlers who do this? This is not something hypothetical. This is going on right now, that go into Palestinian villages, beat up on people, harass children walking to school. Do we have the right to defend ourselves by any means necessary?
Yes, that's what the UN legislation claims. You have that right.
Okay, so the IPC is going to be 300 parliament members, Israelis and Palestinian people together. And they have the political power to pass legislation and to demand the Israeli and the Palestinian governments to act in a way that the 300 parliament members together agree upon. So that could be against the settlers, that could be against Palestinians, whatever there is a consensus of the 300 parliament members to agree upon. So it creates a mechanism of negotiations between the Israeli and the Palestinian parliament members to agree on everything. It's not going to be what you like or what I like. The IPC does not represent my own political personal views. My own political personal views is to dismantle every government in their area and to create one government, secular. But I realize that it's unrealistic. And I say, okay, then let's create something that is not perfect, but it's good. That's how every government is being created. Why do you think we have a federal government in the United States and 50 states in the United States? It would have been perfect if there was only one government, one election. We don't need 50 legislators, 50 constitution. It's because you do what's best under the circumstances, not what's perfect. A perfect system would have been one government. But we realize in the United States that you cannot have a perfect system. You need to accommodate the powers
Absolutely.
that exist.
And that's why we have the Bill of Rights, which gives us the basis for that system. So any 50 states can have independent governments, independent laws. But if it violates the Bill of Rights, then it's therefore invalid. And this is all I'm saying, is that any confederation has to have a basis and a basis of equality, equal rights.
I agree with you completely. So this is why we have the IPC Constitution too, okay? Now, you say to me, hey, but the United States, the Constitution is above the state. The federal government is above the state. And the IPC, the Confederation, is below the state. And I agree with that. That's not a perfect system. However, in my opinion, that's the only system that can be created, especially because Israel is so powerful. Israel will never agree to have a government that's above it. So what you do is you create a government together and you say, okay, we give you a veto power. That's all we can do. I agree with you, Nasir and Chaim, this is not a perfect system, but I am saying it is the most realistic system that both sides will accept.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure, Olivia.
Can I say, I hope I'm not jumping the queue. I found it very interesting listening to what Chaim had to say as an Israeli, as a progressive and very, as a progressive, enlightened Israeli with some excellent ideas. The only problem is, and I'm sure he would agree, that Israelis who think like him are few in number, unfortunately. But South African, the comparison to South Africa in the past and how the apartheid system fell apart is also interesting. Yes, there are, the sanctions and the BDS, the movement worked. I was, shall we say, part of that because I lived in the UK at that time and because I'm elderly. And yes, the pro-Mandela, free Mandela movement in Europe was very, very important. And the sanctions were very, very important, calling out South Africa, all that. But I think one has to factor in something else, Chaim, that at that time, when the Berlin Wall came tumbling down, there was no longer a need for South Africa to be a bastion of anti-communism and supported by the US, etc. And I think after that, the apartheid system sort of crumbled like a pack of cards because before, during the Cold War, of all the proxy wars in Africa and the interest of Russia and the US, etc., etc. So unfortunately, countries don't exist just per se, they're also surrounded by other countries. And the geopolitics of the moment also influences what happens, unfortunately. Now we have a war in Ukraine, and there's going to be, the rise in the price of grain, flour, etc., bread, places like Egypt, the Lebanon, already a failed state. So unfortunately, these things are also, plus COVID, one awful thing after the other, absolutely appalling. So these awful things also influence what happens in a country. The US, it would seem that the US, Israel is a red line for the US. We know that. So I won't prevent other people talking, but I do find what Chaim says extremely enlightening. My only disappointment is that there are too few Israelis who think like Chaim and who think like Zohar, progressive, enlightened people. I wish there were more of them for everybody, for Palestinians and for Israel and for the future. I do wish there were more of you. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Olivia. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chaim, for, let me just go and I have closing remarks that I want to make. Okay. I believe that it is possible to create a common government, possible. Okay. So that it is clear, we are supporting a common government. We are, regardless of whether the Israeli government or the Palestinian government exist or not, we are saying, let's create it now. The only way to do it is to have an awareness in Israel, the Palestine, and all over the world. It is, let's be clear, the Israeli and the Palestinian governments are unable to make peace. They've never really made peace. We have 74 years of conflict and really the only way to make peace is to create a democracy that would create equality and would bring peace. In Estonia, a country with 9.5 million people, 40% of their voting is done online. So it is possible to have election online. A daily war between Israel and Gaza costs over $100 million. With $100 million, we can create a common government. So we need grassroots support. We need awareness, and we need you to tell your friends, and we need you to show up at the simulation, and you know, people that are agree or disagree, regardless of their personal insults. It's good that you show up, and I believe that we're having a meritorious discussion, a very productive discussion that you would not see anywhere else. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your participation. And I hope to see you in the next simulation that we will have, as I announced earlier. I forgot the dates, but I hope to see you, and you'll get the comments. So thank you so much all, and have a great the rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Joseph.